All right, everyone, welcome back. Today, we're going deep on OPKO Health's Q4 2024 earnings call.
Yeah, and they're calling this past year transformative, so that's kind of a big deal, right?
Transformative, huh? Well, we're about to find out why. I mean, OPKO's got their fingers in a lot of pies, pharmaceuticals, diagnostics, you name it. So let's break it down, shall we? Starting with, well, the money, financials.
Right. So they ended 2024 with a good amount of cash on hand, like $495 million. And they're still expecting to have at least $300 million left over after 2025, even with all the planned spending.
Okay, so that's a pretty solid cushion, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But what about the outlook for this coming year?
Well, their revenue guidance for 2025 is somewhere between $675 and $700 million, but their projected costs and expenses are a bit higher, like between $825 and $875 million.
And not quite in the black yet, huh?
Not yet, but there are some bright spots. For instance, they're expecting their diagnostics branch, BioReference Health, to become profitable this year in 2025.
BioReference Health, right. That's the one they've been restructuring, right?
Exactly. They've been selling off parts of their clinical diagnostics and women's health testing businesses.
Really?
Yeah, but they're holding on to those operations in New York and New Jersey. And they're also shifting their focus towards specialty testing, specifically in oncology and urology. Seems like those are their real growth areas.
Yeah. Interesting. So are they seeing any actual results from this new strategy?
Oh, absolutely. Overall testing volume is up about 1%, which is not a huge jump, but it's steady. But the really impressive stuff is happening in those specialty areas. So their national oncology testing segment, that saw a 5% bump in revenue. And their 4K score test, that prostate cancer test, well, that saw a big jump of 16% in both volume and revenue.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's pretty significant.
Yeah. Plus, they added 9 new hospital reference accounts, including a major one in New York, so they're definitely expanding their reach.
Okay, so this move toward more specialized testing, it sounds like it could be a big part of their path to profitability.
Yeah, I think so.
So speaking of exciting things, let's talk about, well, new drugs. What's going on over at Modex Therapeutics, OPKO's drug development subsidiary? What are they cooking up?
Well, Modex is where things get really interesting. They've got some potentially game-changing therapies in development. I mean, just in 2024 alone, they hit a big milestone. They got 2 of their products into phase 1 clinical trials.
Wow, phase 1 trial. Okay, tell me more.
So one is a vaccine for the Epstein-Barr virus, or EBV. They developed this in partnership with Merck. And get this vaccine has the potential to not only prevent mononucleosis, but also some types of cancer and even multiple sclerosis.
Hold on. A vaccine for mono that could also prevent cancer and MS. That's huge. What's the other one in phase 1 trials?
Yeah, it's called MDX 2001, and it's a tetra-specific antibody. Basically, it's designed to target like 4 different parts of a tumor cell at the same time, making it way harder for the tumor to, escape treatment. They're starting by testing it on solid tumors like lung, breast, prostate, and pancreatic cancer.
So they're really swinging for the fences here. They're not messing around with these therapies, are they?
Not at all. And they have 2 more therapies entering the clinic soon, too. MDX 2003, that's focusing on hematology and autoimmune diseases. And then there's MDX 2004, which is aiming for, and this is wild, immune system rejuvenation.
Immune system rejuvenation. That sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
Right. But, that's the level of innovation we're seeing from Modex. They're not just, tweaking existing treatments. They're trying to totally rewrite the rules of medicine.
I love that. That's the kind of ambition I like to see. Now, you mentioned the Merck partnership for the EBV vaccine. That sounds like a pretty big deal.
Oh, yeah. It's a big one. Merck paid $50 million upfront, and they could end up paying OPKO up to $862.5 million more in milestone payments, plus royalties if the vaccine actually, makes it to market. That's a serious vote of confidence.
Yeah, those are some serious numbers. Any other notable partnerships worth mentioning?
Oh, yeah, there's another one. They're also working with BARDA, the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, and they're developing multi-specific antibodies to fight COVID and influenza.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And BARDA has already given them $110 million in non-dilutive funding for this, and that could even increase to $205 million.
Okay, so they've got some serious partnerships going on and a good chunk of cash on hand. But let's not forget about their existing products, right? What are their main revenue drivers numbers right now?
Well, one of their most successful products is NGNLA, a once-weekly injectable growth hormone that Pfizer markets. It's available in 42 countries, and it just keeps getting more popular. And then there's OPKO 8890, 6 of OPKO OP8DSCO06. It's a once-weekly injectable for diabetes and metabolic disorders. It's a dual GLP-1 and glucagon agonist. It's a pretty unique approach.
Okay, a dual what now? Explain that one to me. What makes this dual agonist approach so special?
So basically, it means it targets two different hormones that are involved in regulating blood sugar. GLP-1 agonists, those are already proven to be effective for treating diabetes and obesity, but adding glucagon into the mix could actually, enhance weight loss and metabolic health even further.
So it's like a double whammy against diabetes and obesity. I like the sound of that.
Right. And get this, they're also working on an oral version of this drug with Entera Bio, so no more needles.
An oral version. Now, that would be a game changer, right? I mean, who wants to be sticking themselves with needles every week if they don't have to?
Exactly.
All right. So what else?
So then there's Rayld, their treatment for secondary hyperparathyroidism. That one's already been approved in the U.S. and other markets, and it's expected to launch in China in 2025 through their partner, Nicoya.
Oh, wow. China. That's a huge market.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get too carried away here, singing OPKO's praises, it's time for our little disclaimer, or this is not financial advice segment. Just a friendly reminder to everyone out there, we're just having a fun, speculative conversation here. We are not financial advisors, and this is, definitely not a recommendation to buy or sell any stock, especially OPKO.
Right, of course. Always do your own research, talk to a financial advisor you trust before making any, investment decisions. The market can be unpredictable, and past performance is never a guarantee of future results.
Yeah. Couldn't said it better myself. Okay, so disclaimer out of the way. Let's have some fun. If I were a betting man, which I'm not saying I am, I'd be looking at a long-term call option play on OPKO.
Ooh, interesting. Why a long-term call option?
Well, I mean, look at their Modex pipeline. It's overflowing with potential. If even just one of these big bets they're making, like the EBV vaccine or MDX 2001 for cancer, or even that immune system rejuvenation program, if just one of those hits, their valuation could go through the roof.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Positive phase 1 data for MDX 2001, or Merck moving the EBV vaccine to phase 2 trials, or even just more funding or partnerships, any of that could really send the price soaring.
Exactly. But of course, we can't forget about the risks, right? Clinical trial setbacks, regulatory hurdles, competition. These are all very real things in the biotech world. It's a high risk, high reward kind of game.
So what kind of time frame are you thinking for this hypothetical call option play?
Oh, given where their pipeline is right now, I'd say a long-term play, like maybe 2 to 3 years out. That gives them, enough time to generate some solid data and hopefully hit some of those big milestones.
That makes sense, especially in a sector as volatile as biotech. A longer time frame lets things settle a bit, right? But with options, though, you have to think about time decay, which eats away at the value over time.
Right. So you're basically betting that the potential upside from OPKO's pipeline is going to outweigh the cost of that time decay. It's a gamble for sure, but one with a potentially massive payoff.
Okay, so listeners, we've thrown a lot at you so far. What are your initial thoughts on OPK? Are you as intrigued by their pipeline as we are? Do you agree with our, again, purely hypothetical call option idea? Or do you see things differently? We'd love to hear from you, even if you have a totally different perspective. But we'll have to save that conversation for part 2 coming up after. Well, we'll just keep going.
Yeah, biotech investing is it's definitely not for the risk averse, that's for sure. But hey, let's dig a little deeper into OPKO's their current products.
Yeah, sounds good. So one product that I found really interesting, it's called OPKO 8806. And it's that once weekly injectable for diabetes and metabolic disorders. And this whole dual GLP-1 and glucagon agonist thing, it's pretty cool because it actually targets 2 different hormones that regulate blood sugar.
So it's like a 1-2 punch against diabetes.
Exactly. GLP-1 agonists, they're already kind of well established in the market for treating diabetes and obesity. But when you add glucagon into the mix, it could potentially enhance how well they work, maybe even leading to better weight loss and metabolic improvements.
Okay, I'm with you so far. So this OPKO 8876, it has the potential to be a real player in the diabetes market, huh? But you mentioned something about an oral version too, right?
Yeah. They're actually working with Entera Bio to develop an oral version of the drug. So think about it, a pill that could like effectively manage diabetes and all those related complications.
That'd be huge. I mean, convenience is everything for patients, right? And a pill is just so much easier than dealing with injections.
Well, absolutely. Patient compliance, it's a massive factor in how successful any treatment for a chronic disease is going to be.
Right, for sure. Okay, so changing gears a bit. Earlier, you mentioned Rayaldee, their treatment for secondary hyperparathyroidism. What's the latest on that one?
Well, it's already approved and it's doing pretty well in the U.S. and other markets. But the exciting thing is that their partner in China, Nicoya, they're getting ready for a big launch there in 2025.
That's a massive market.
Oh yeah, definitely. And there's even some emerging evidence suggesting that Rayaldee might actually be able to delay the need for dialysis in some patients.
Wow, delaying dialysis, that's a really big deal. Okay, so zooming out for a second here, I'm kind of seeing a pattern with OPKO. They seem to be pretty good at finding these big challenges in healthcare and then going after them with these really innovative solutions.
You're absolutely right. They're not afraid to tackle these complex problems, and their diverse portfolio, it really shows that. It's not just about, developing one big blockbuster drug. It's about building a whole pipeline of these potentially game-changing therapies across different areas of medicine.
Okay, so going back to this whole transformative year thing, what exactly makes 2024 so special for OPKO besides all these exciting developments we've been talking about?
Well, a lot of it comes down to their strategic realignment. They've been really busy reshaping the company, getting rid of some assets, and streamlining their operations.
Like the restructuring of BioReference Health that we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And they've also been really strategic about forming these key partnerships like that one with Merck for the EBV vaccine. And they've been pretty successful at getting that non-dilutive funding, like those grants from BARDA for their COVID and influenza antibody programs.
So it's not just about developing cool new products. It's about positioning themselves for success in the long term, both strategically and financially.
Exactly. They're building a really solid foundation for sustainable growth. And their strong cash position with over $300 million projected, even after 2025, it gives them a lot of flexibility to actually, carry out their plans.
Okay, so let's recap some of the key takeaways here before we jump back into the speculative fun. First off, OPKO is definitely not a one-trick pony. Their diverse portfolio is a major strength. It gives them, multiple ways to grow, and it means they're not overly reliant on any one product.
Agreed. And they're clearly not shying away from pushing the boundaries of innovation. I mean, their Modex subsidiary is developing some truly groundbreaking therapies. They're going after major diseases like cancer, infectious diseases, and even aging.
Yeah, and they're playing the long game, right? They're strategically positioning themselves for success down the road. Their restructuring efforts, their key partnerships, their focus on getting non-dilutive funding, all of that points to a really well thought out strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're backing it all up with a solid financial foundation. Their healthy cash position and their guidance for 2025, it shows that they're in a good place to actually, make their vision a reality.
Okay, so are you ready for round two of This Is Not Financial Advice?
Oh, I'm always ready for some speculation. But first, just a quick reminder to our listeners, this next segment is purely for entertainment and brainstorming. Okay, like we're just exploring some hypothetical trade ideas here. We're not giving investment recommendations.
Right, exactly. The stock market is, it's a wild ride, and past performance is not an indicator of future results. Always do your own research, talk to a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, so with that disclaimer out of the way, let's fire up our speculative engines and see what we can come up with.
So earlier we were talking about a long-term call option play on OPKO, betting on their Modex pipeline to really deliver. But let's think about this from another angle. What about their big pile of cash? They ended 2024 with $495 million, and they're projecting at least $300 million left over, even after 2025.
So you're thinking that cash could fuel some interesting moves, huh?
Exactly. They've already set aside up to $100 million for stock buybacks and opportunistic convertible note purchases, which tells me that they believe in their own value, but they could potentially ramp up those buybacks even more, and that could really, really boost the share price.
Yeah, that's definitely one possibility. Or they could use that cash for strategic acquisitions, maybe bolstering their pipeline or expanding into new markets.
Now you're talking. Imagine them acquiring some promising early stage biotech company, with a technology that really complements their existing pipeline.
Or maybe they license a technology that lets them develop even more cutting edge therapies. The possibilities are really endless.
And here's a wild one. What if they decide to just give some of that cash back directly to shareholders, in the form of a dividend?
That would be a bold move. It's not something they've done before, but it would definitely send a really strong signal to the market that they're confident about the future.
Right. And it could also attract a whole new group of investors,
Yeah.
The ones who are looking for those income generating stocks.
All right, listeners, we've thrown out some ideas here. Now it's your turn to get creative. What are your wildest but still plausible trade ideas for OPKO?
Yeah, do you think they'll end up being acquired by a bigger pharmaceutical company? Right. Or maybe they'll license out one of their platform technologies for a big chunk of change?
What about a partnership with a big pharma player to develop and commercialize one of their blockbuster drugs? I mean, the possibilities are really out there.
Exactly. This is where your creativity comes in. We're all about exploring different perspectives and challenging the way we normally think. So don't be shy. Share your boldest trade ideas with us, and let's see where this conversation takes us. Okay, so we're back and ready to hear those wild but plausible trade ideas for OPKO. But before we do that, I want to go back to something that caught my ear in their earnings call.
Oh yeah, what's that?
They kind of briefly mentioned this dual GLP-1 and glucagon agonist for diabetes and metabolic disorders. OPKO 88706. It sounds like, it's still early days. They're in the preclinical stages, but the whole concept that's pretty fascinating.
It is. And the preclinical data they've released so far, it's actually been pretty encouraging. And remember, this is a massive market. I mean, there's a huge unmet need here.
Yeah. Current
diabetes treatments, they often just don't cut it. And a lot of patients, they really struggle to manage their condition.
Absolutely. And if this OPKO 880006, if it can actually deliver on what it's showing, that superior blood sugar control and maybe even address some other metabolic issues like obesity and fatty liver disease. I mean, we could be looking at a real game changer here.
I agree. And don't forget, they're also working on an oral version with Entera Bio, which, that could be a huge win for patients in terms of convenience and just making it easier to stick with the treatment.
Yeah, imagine that, right? A simple pill that could effectively manage diabetes and all the complications that come with it. I mean, it could revolutionize how we treat this global epidemic.
It's definitely one to keep an eye on for sure. But, like with any preclinical therapy, there's still a long way to go. I mean, we'll have to wait and see how the data looks once they get into clinical trials.
Right, of course. Okay, so back to our listeners. We want to hear your speculative trade ideas for OPKO. And, don't hold back, no matter how outlandish they might seem.
Yeah, do you think they'll become a target for a bigger pharmaceutical company, an acquisition target, or maybe they'll license out one of their platform technologies for a nice big payday?
What about a partnership with a major player in big pharma, to develop and commercialize one of their potential blockbuster drugs? I mean, the sky's the limit here, folks.
Yeah, it really is. This is where you all come in. This is where your creativity really shines. We love exploring different perspectives and shaking things up, challenging the way we would normally think. So don't hold back. Share your boldest trade ideas and let's see where this takes us.
And even if your ideas sound a little crazy, they might just spark a conversation that leads to some real insights. That's the beauty of speculation, right? It forces us to think outside the box and consider scenarios we might have completely missed otherwise.
So there you have it, folks. We took you on a deep dive into OPKO Health, from their financials in their product pipeline to, well, to some pretty wild and speculative trade ideas.
And we really hope you enjoy the ride. We encourage you to keep digging into OPKO and other companies that are really shaping the future of healthcare.
And as always, do your own research. Talk to a financial advisor that you trust, and never invest more than you can afford to lose. The market is, well, it's full of uncertainty, and there are no guarantees.
But with a little bit of knowledge and a healthy dose of curiosity, you can navigate all the complexities of biotech investing and hey, maybe even find some hidden gems along the way.
That's all for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.